This video is brought to you by Gamersubs. Use code MHB at checkout for 10% off your next order. This one's been a long time coming. If you're new to the channel, you may not know this as I haven't talked about a Souls game on the channel since the start of 2022. But I am a huge fan of the Soulsborne Hero Ring series. I absolutely adore these games and they're up there with some of my all-time favorites. But since returning to the trophy hunting fold, I have yet to actually platinum any of these incredible games, and that changes today. Today we're going to be earning the platinum trophy in the Souls game that started it all, Demon's Souls. More specifically, the Demon's Souls Remake. The original Demon's Souls was one of the first games I earned the Platinum Trophy for back on my long-lost PS3 account, and is a game I've played through hundreds of times at this point. It's one of my favorite games in the series purely because it is one of the first games that introduced me to this type of difficulty in games. I remember the first time I beat all the bosses, that first time seeing the credits roll, and that feeling of satisfaction when I conquered the game for the first time like it was yesterday. So of course, if I'm going to start going after the platinum trophies in this great series, I have to start with the beginning. As always, if you do end up enjoying the content, be sure to leave the video a like, comment below some more platinums you'd like to see me tackle next, subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, and go over to twitch.tv/MayorHairBear if you want to see some of these platinum journeys live. Now, if you've heard anything about the Souls series, you know these are difficult games, and that carries over to the Platinum Trophy, as according to PSN profiles, Demon's Souls ranks at about a 7 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, takes 2 playthroughs, and roughly 40 hours to complete. However, I wasn't starting this journey from scratch, as the Demon's Souls Remake was a big reason I wanted to pick up a PS5 to begin with, so I had already unlocked 21 out of the 37 trophies going in, mainly just for beating all the bosses in the game. Where this would typically make going for the platinum easier in other games, not so much here, as I needed to start from the start regardless and basically do it all again because Demon's Souls Platinum Journey, as you'll see, is needlessly finicky and honestly confusing without a proper guide. Which, if you want to grab the Platinum Trophy for this game in New Game Plus, you'll want to have it handy at all times because one wrong move and you're starting a third playthrough. So I booted up my checklist, I told you, it's needlessly complicated, and started a fresh playthrough, and away we go. We selected our starting class in Royalty because magic in Demon's Souls, more so than any other game in the series, is insanely broken, as you'll see by some of these boss fights, and made our way through the tutorial, which ended abruptly. That double swing is not what you want. Oh, what? But hey, who needs extra goodies anyway? It was time to head to the first real level, Boletaria Palace, where despite some risky plays, let's see how much our magic does to him. That will be my big test to see if I really want to do this. 61's not what I'm really looking for out of this. Oh, that was really close. Yeah, go idiot. Too easy, you fool. We made it through to the boss with little issue. Phalanx is our first real boss, and if you've been paying attention to the items in the world, you'll know he is extremely weak to fire, so with a flaming sword at hand and some firebombs, we cook our first boss. Woohoo! Gain his soul, return to human form, and head back to the Nexus, which is where I need to explain the mechanic that makes this platinum needlessly confusing. In Demon's Souls, there is basically a morality system called world and character tendency. Defeating bosses will change your world tendency towards white, and defeating black phantoms or enemy invaders will change your character tendency towards white. But dying in human form in a world will change your world tendency to black, and killing NPCs and invading other players will change character character tendency towards black. Why is this an issue? Well, to grab certain items in the worlds, we need to manipulate these systems, especially in regards to the trophy King of Rings, which is for, you guessed it, collecting all 30 rings in the game. Some rings only appear in pure white or pure black worlds, some quests can only be completed with pure black or white character tendency, and if you don't have a plan for when and how you manipulate these systems, you'll be adding, at the very least, more unnecessary hours to your playthrough. What this boils down to is to manipulate the world tendency. To play it safe, we need to play in soul form, as if we die, it doesn't affect anything, and this means doing this after each boss. Oh, but soul form isn't without consequences, because in soul form, you have your health bar cut in half, unless you equip the cling ring to boost that up a bit, locking a ring slot from the beginning. World tendency isn't a big deal right at the beginning, but I figured I may as well explain now why I'm never in human form, and I don't have to keep bringing it up all the time for every little thing I do in this journey. Anyway, after the Phalanx fight, we talk with the Monumental to get the rundown on what's going on here, as well as picking up a quest that I'll explain more on later, as I made a boo-boo. With the backstory acquired, we head to the Maiden in Black so we can level up, and with our priorities being magic and intelligence, pump up those stats for now. Now, our next stop was supposed to be the Tower Knight back in Boletaria Castle, but I decided to make a pit stop and jump all the way to the 4th Archstone, the Shrine of Storms, which at my level was a scary prospect. However, this is always my route when I play Demon Souls, and I wasn't changing that for this playthrough, as here contains one of the best weapons in the game, especially for magic builds, the Crescent Falchion +1. An already upgraded weapon this early on is huge, but it's definitely risk versus reward, as these skellies are no joke and basically one-shot me if they get too close. But with some patience and too many close calls to count, I always forget you can't really do like back-to-back blasts because they will just roly-poly your ass into the Nexus. I hate when you do this. That was so close to death. Because if I'm not gonna lie, if two come rolling towards my ass here, I might be in trouble. And this guy is, again, for where we are in this playthrough, this guy he will one-shot us, no question. And we don't do any damage to him. I don't know. I hope he forgets. Yeah, this area is no. Oh, he came back. He's right there. Oh no. The thing with, like, a lot of people, like, obviously, most deaths in the Soul series are your fault. I know for a fact he can upslash me through this fucking thing. I'm stuck. Oh, don't kill me now. Fuck's sake. I managed to grab this OP weapon nice and early and promptly left to go after the Tower Knight, after I made it past the fire-breathing dragon, scorching a path forward. Again, usually I'd sit around with a bow and hundreds of arrows and take it out, but 1, it's a boring watch, and 2, I was feeling risky and just went full steam ahead, which thankfully worked out pretty well. But it was here at the Tower Knight Fog Gate I had to keep in mind our first trophy. One shall fall, which is for defeating the Tower Knight without taking out any of the surrounding archers. Sounded simple enough. Oh, get a first trial sub. Okay, bet. And I would love if the archers would obviously. Bet. You. Ow. One shall fall. There we go. First trophy, miscellaneous boss trophy. We'll take those. Well, I told you. I'll be honest. I'm nice with these games. I'm nice with Dark Souls and Demon Souls. So yeah, the archers gave me some grief here, but hey, our first trophy was off the board, and we were still deathless outside of our Nexus deaths. And I can't lie, I was feeling pretty invincible already heading into the second Archstone, Stonefang tunnels, which said confidence was quickly done away with. I'm hoping we can kind of just keep this deathless going. That'd make for a quality video. How I platinum Demon Souls without dying. And I f***ed up immediately, so that video. Oh my good lord. Outside of that poorly timed clip, though, we made it down into the mines to face off against the next boss with relative ease, but this fight did have me worried. The armor spider is often my kryptonite because if you get caught in a web attack, you're basically accepting a fireball to the face, and since my health is still low, too many of those and I'm cooked. But surprisingly, I did get past it first try, ready to try and complete our first RNG step in this playthrough. In the next level of Stonefang, there is a fat official that has a chance to drop a gold coin, which we need later to trade, and basically you just need to keep taking out this official, loot the body, and die until he drops the coin. This can take a few minutes to hours, as you can guess with RNG, but thankfully we did get lucky pretty quickly with this one. Let's go! So with that tedium out the way, time to head further into the mines and face what is, in my opinion, the toughest boss in the game, Flame Lurker. He's quick, he does a ton of damage, and the arena is a fire hazard. Every Souls game has a gatekeeper boss battle, one fight in the game where if you can beat them, you can beat the game, and Flame Lurker is that for Demon Souls, and this is where I took my first few boss related deaths. I can't see. Oh, f off, man. The camera angle f me there. Ah, you got me again. You f dude. God damn it. Thankfully, the run back is probably the easiest in the game as well, and with a new day upon us, I did finally take him out. Yes! Ready to defeat our first archdemon, the cover of the game, the Dragon God, who is a huge disappointment, which is a common theme for these types of fights. I mean, they're just stupidly easy. It's just about if we can avoid being seen. If we can avoid being seen, he should be alright. Oh, I've missed. Oh, that was bad. That was a quick one. Okay, when you know which cover is safe, it's really easy. You just hide from the Dragon God's eyes, clear the debris, and use the crossbows on each side to pin him down, and that's basically the boss done. Luckily, this is where we'd grab our second trophy, Fists of a Legend, for defeating the Dragon God with the Hands of God, which we picked up outside Flame Lurker's boss battle. For being called the Hands of God though, my stats basically made these weapons glorified pillows, but we got that health bar down eventually. Again, if you got the stats, there we go. That's not too bad. Fists of a Legend. There we go. That was our first Archstone complete though, and without dawdling, we headed back into Boletaria Castle to continue that mission along. This is probably the first level that gave me real grief, just simply for the Red Eye Knights at the end. To make it a little more tedious, they just like, yeah. Oh, sick. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm dead. Oh, I didn't. I remember there being a lot of knights in this level. I didn't think there was one right there. This is what I hate about this run back. Is these knights are garbage. Yeah. They're all spears. That's fine. The run back's not too bad now we've opened the shortcut, but it is that's still annoying. Oh, you what the f, man? I hate these guys. I hate these guys, man. Oh my god. I hate these knights. This is the hardest part of my game. I bet you the boss doesn't give me this much grief. But the main reason we're here was to free an absolute Chad from the prison and use some of the fat official clothes we'd picked up so far to free Yuria the Witch, because she sells the most OP spell in the entire game, as you'll see soon. But despite my issues on the lead up to the boss, with the help of Bior, we take out the, I hate this boss's name, Penetrator, and continue on our merry way. Up next, the Tower of Latria. Latria might be the creepiest, most unsettling environment in the game, with Cthulhu enemies who will one-shot you, crazed inmates ready to swing on you, and fall hazards everywhere. But for the most part, with some patience and a careful eye, we made it to our next trophy, Time for Rolling, which requires us to cross the bridge through the constant barrage of arrows. Yeah, it went about as well as you can expect. Yeah, it's just a stone. Oh no! I panicked! The timing for this is gonna kill me, man. Oh, what? It didn't kill me in one shot last time. Yeah, that one felt delayed. Oh, I just want to, no, I'm not going to bed until this is done. I can't justify leaving. Oh. The trouble is as well, timing wise. Okay. Oh, we're almost there. Yes, time for rolling! We don't have to do it ever again. But this was actually the rare occasion we could get 2 trophies in the same level, with Not Fooled, in which for the Fool's Idol boss fight, we can't hit any of her clones. But how do we know which is which? Well, clones have a health bar on their head, so just cycle through the lock-on and hit anyone without that health bar, and the trophy is yours. That should be the Not Fooled trophy. Let's go! Now, trophy-wise, not much happens for us for a long while, but I do want to highlight the next 2 bosses in Latria, because one shows the prime example for why magic is so damn OP, particularly Firestorm. We'll see how this goes, because they're, like, even if we can one-shot these guys, there is a very... Could I lock on, please? Could I lock on, please? There's a very real chance, one, they do something like that, or that. But see what I mean? See what I mean? Health bar wise, they get f***ed on. And the other just goes to show, just because someone invades for the old monk fight, doesn't mean they'll be better than the AI. That's not good. Hey, there you go. You got to see the paralyze effect. It's a... I mean, my brother in Christ. Oh, good. Notoriously lag-wise is probably not great for us. I was gonna say, that guy's dead. Sometimes the NPC route is easier. To be fair, he was lagging like crazy. It was clear because I'm like, I'm not even. He's swinging at me. I'm not there. I wasn't there 10 years ago. But with Latria now behind us, we were off to the Shrine of Storms, which again, trophy-wise, doesn't really hold much for us. Well, holds nothing immediately for us, but at this point, we were a bit of a juggernaut and cruised through to the next level, no problem. Oh, well, I was gonna say, this guy should be dead, dude. I was gonna say, he actually killed me. That's nuts. That tongue. That shouldn't be able to do that. What'd that tongue do? Oh my god, I can't believe I died to that loser. I said no problem. There we go. Here in the second level though, unfortunately we're back to that RNG grind for some pure bladestone, and this took a lot longer than the gold coin. Like hundreds of attempts longer. At least we were grinding up some souls in the least efficient way possible. Oh, yes, there we go. We got there. Hell, man. Pure bladestone, what a pain in the ass. We're going back to the Nexus, I'm leveling up. But with that out the way, we continue on, get booted in the ass by Patches because he's a prick, save Saint Urbane, who we'll need for our miracle trophy, and after some struggles in the tight corridors... Like... This has to be one of the worst designed areas in the whole of Demon Souls. I feel like something spawned behind me when I come over here. No? I knew it. Oh, you man. Ah! Oh, nice little bitch slap too. That's not making the YouTube video. Yeah, no, I'm not allowed to say that one. No! I hate this area! Like the end, yeah, I hate all this respawning shit. Like, okay, that hasn't happened before. See what I have to deal with. You see this shit? Yeah, right. I hate the camera in this game, man. Before I could never really get on board with. That was a mistake. I mean, I should have survived that, honestly. I feel like I was unjustly done there. That was almost... I wish we could get there, because that would be a nasty shortcut. That's the boss room we just saw, too. Oh, you're gonna do me like that, huh? You did me like that. I can feel my gaming abilities losing. Make it to our next battle, and, well, you know the drill. Yeah, this guy always scared me when I originally played this game, but... I'm thinking Firestorm also f***ed him up, but you never know. Yeah, we got a very good RNG on that Firestorm right there. With the old hero taken care of, we go to face the Storm King, and this time the gimmick is to use this badass wind sword to take out the king of those stupid stingrays that I hate with a burning passion. And with the shrine complete, we just have one archstone left. The worst of the lot. The Valley of Defilement. Much like the shrine, trophies were scarce to start with here, and as much as I despise these levels at this point, I've played through this godforsaken place hundreds of times, and it really isn't too much trouble when you know where the ambushes and falling traps are. We took out the two bosses with little stress, and after all this time we were finally onto our final boss trophy. May You Be Unharmed. It's for defeating Maiden Astraea without killing her bodyguard, which is difficult when he blocks our path to the boss. But since Firestorm only stuns him, we do get by him and sprint to the Maiden. Uh-oh, I forgot the sudden ring. Yeah, may you be unharmed. Yeah, there he is. Vinland. He was about to body me. With the valley complete, this is our first trophy example of the world's tendencies because we need to go right back, as through beating all the bosses, the valley is now pure white and unlocks a path to a badass spear for a trophy. Alright, ready for another trophy? One of the few. So that's for picking up the Istarel. With all but one level complete, this is where we just needed to do some tidying up. First of which, heading back to the Shrine of Storms to deliver a sword to Suski, who is less than appreciative. There you go, buddy. Oh, fuck. Okay, worthy of the sword. And while we're here, this is where our RNG grinding came to play, as we had all the items to trade the crow for some rare rings. With that done, I went back to Boletaria to face the toughest test in the game, bar none. Old King Doran. Now for his sword, you just need to land a few good hits and you're sweet, but we actually need to take him out completely for his ring. To unlock this fight though, first we need the key from an NPC called Ostrava, which if you complete his quest isn't until the final level, so what we did in the very beginning was actually take him out and grab the key nice and early. But that Doran fight, no wonder that crazy bastard was under lock and key. Yeah, that's bad. Okay, he's gonna give us some grief. Beat all the bosses in that world. Oh yeah, he's cooked. All my hard work! You man. Oh, he's such a... He should have been dead. I didn't know he healed himself. And he does it quick. Alright, I'm gonna go back to Nexus. I might buy that poison spell and just cheese the out of him. This might take a while. Just fair warning. So how's your day? Give me the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit trilogy, and Hobbit trilogies, and do what you did with Skywalker Saga, and give me one big-ass Middle-earth Lego to explore. Alright, that's door and done. Yeah, I cheesed him. Big deal. It was after this fight though, I made a huge mistake. I decided to try and grab the 2 online trophies for Demon Souls in which we need to help another player beat a boss and defeat a player in PvP. I'll get back to the co-op trophy in a minute because that's a whole other can of worms, but I decided to invade using the old monk fight for the trophy, which by the way can be so unfair for the other player. Alright, that's unwelcome guest. The issue here I didn't realize was I wouldn't have much luck getting people to help boost my character tendency, and when I tried to complete the offline method of taking each world to pure black to fight the black phantoms, I still didn't have enough to get to pure white character tendency, which we need for the Monumentals quest we took in the beginning. Which, by the way, you can do this completely offline, just don't invade anyone and you're golden with the method I just listed. But since I invaded someone and technically won twice, the first was a disconnect, I was actually 2 steps away from pure white and would have to try to get these few more black phantom kills in New Game Plus, which is terrible. So don't do what I did. Wait until you're done with your character tendency first, then invade unless you got a buddy to boost with. Anyway, with that done, I tried to get summoned for a boss over and over, but failing because the Aussie servers are just so incredibly dead. And farming some easy souls for our New Game Plus playthrough, we finally entered the last level, got to the final fight with no real issue. You're a sake. And you know the rest. Alright, Firestorm still one shot kills him. Oh no. I didn't expect him to die like that. I was like, oh, we're gonna have to piece him up. Nah. Get We were on to the endings, which yes, we save scummed. So we take out the Slug King as our final fight, grab his sword for later, and here is where the endings come into play. You see, there is only one ending based trophy, and that is to kill the Maiden in Black, but for New Game Plus we need her soul, which you only get from the other ending. So we grab the trophy, Seeker Soul Power, then reverted back and got the actual ending we wanted, and it was time for New Game Plus. Now New Game Plus really isn't that exciting, so I'm going to explain what we had left to do and then go into some trophies we were missing. So for the rest of our trophies, we needed to kill all but 3 bosses in False King Alant, the Old Hero, and the Storm King. We needed to grab all the NPCs within the worlds again, especially Uria and Urbane, and personally I needed to finish getting my character tendency to pure white, only to later get it all the way to pure black. So with that plan, off we went. New Game Plus really wasn't that different in terms of difficulty. The only real difference was enemies hit a lot harder. Like most enemies are 2 clean shots away from taking you out. But what I really had on my mind was this damn co-op trophy early on. I couldn't pair with anyone, not on any server, and I waited at hotspots like Flame Lurker, for example, for hours. In hindsight, this is one I'd try and get early on because the longer you leave it, the less people use it in terms of soul level. Thankfully, I did find the Demon Souls Discord server eventually, just looking for help, and within minutes, I had an absolute god gamer willing to help me out. Yeah. Yes, return to form. You are an absolute legend, dude. So, shout out to Radicus61 for finally letting my suffering end and moving on to getting this platinum trophy. I finally got the ring from the monumentals. I breezed through most areas. This is editor Jimmy speaking, and I just wanted to pop in real quick here and say I didn't plan on doing a death counter going into this platinum experience. So I didn't record really anything to do with my New Game Plus playthrough except for the ending stream and a few of the bigger moments like grabbing the monumental quest and the co-op trophy and stuff like that. So I'm just going to take a wild guess, and I reckon we can double the deaths. Do I think I died another like 30 times? No, but I didn't think I died 30 times in the first place, so I think that's a safe bet. So just want to pop in and like let's add those deaths. And that led me to my final stream of the game. I finally gave the Flame Locust Soul to the blacksmith. Road to possibilities. Combined both Old King Doran and King Alant's swords, and that's for the Legacy of Kings. And with Saint Urbain finally freed, again through save scumming, managed to obtain all spells and miracles. There we go, the Sage's Trophy. So that's for all of the spells. Saint's Trophy, that's all the miracles. Let's go. All that was left was the final 2 rings, and for that we needed to go full dark side. We had to get our character to pure black to unlock the final quest, so some friends and patches had to go, grabbing our second last ring in the process. With our character fully Sith now, the character Mephistopheles has some NPC bounties to take care of. First is Sage Frake and his apprentice, then Ostrava, who we left alone in the first level, and finally Yuria. And just like that, the Demon's Souls Remake Platinum Trophy was ours. King of Rings, there you go. So I don't even have to kill this bitch. Slayer of Trophies, get it. This is your chance to be on YouTube, guys. Get on board. Hello, future me. Bang. So, how long did that take us? Should be able to, yeah. 26 hours in-game time. So, after 26 hours in total, I told you, this really isn't too difficult a platinum to grab. What did I think of the Demon's Souls Remake's Platinum Trophy and the game in general? In terms of the game itself, Demon's Souls might not be the best in the series, but it is one of my absolute favorite games to play. Yes, the bosses are gimmicky. Yes, the magic is OP, which if you're having a cry in the comments, I gotta say, get a life, brother. And yes, some locales I do always dread revisiting. But every time I play this game, I have such a blast. I love the world of Boletaria. I love the design and layout of this game. I love the combat, the weapons and spells. I just love this game and can play it over and over again with no issue at all. In regards to the platinum though, I don't love it if I'm honest. I mean, following a checklist so I don't royally butcher some collectibles or events is never fun, and the online trophies are just a bit past their prime with this game, at least on Australian servers, making for the most troublesome trophies I had this entire playthrough. I just didn't enjoy that aspect as much as I did playing the game, which is disappointing, but not the end of the world. I still say if you're a bit of a Souls noob, this is the easiest one to add to your Platinum collection though, for those imaginary gamer points. I'm still stoked I grabbed the Platinum to add to my collection, if for no other reason than it's yet another one of my favorite games. Next up, we really have a strong contender for my all-time favorite game in Dark Souls though. But until then, this has been the Demon's Souls Platinum experience. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, make sure to leave a comment with Umbasa to let me know that you made it to the end. Make sure if you did enjoy the video to leave it a like because it helps let me know that you enjoyed yourself. Comment below some more games you want to see get Platinum next, as well as your personal favorite Soulsborne game and Platinum trophy. Thank you to all my channel members for that extra level of support, and special thanks to those in the Bear Club, G&T Papi, Jackie White, Nugget, Dark Wolf, Daniel Fitzgerald, Scott Unwin, Steel Vanguard, NPO Crusader, Zafardo, Nef, Marcel, and Moon. It really does mean a lot to me. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Go give my socials a follow if you fancy at MayorHairBear. Join the Discord server to have a chat. Go and chuck me a follow on Twitch if you want to see some of these Platinum journeys live. Or MayorHairBear VODs if those pesky time zones don't line up for you. And I'll catch you all in the next video.